You ready, Steve? Yeah. Okay, we're good. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Lonette Sims, and I'm the chair of the People's Response Network, and I will also be the moderator for our press conference today. The reason why we're having a press conference is to first declare that no, the COVID-19 pandemic is not over. We vehemently disagree with President Biden's declaration that the COVID-19 pandemic is over. People are dying every day, and we also have millions of Americans who are suffering from long COVID.
That's right.
It's irresponsible for him to declare that COVID is over when Americans are suffering every day from COVID. Also, another reason for our press conference is that in response to President Biden's declaration that COVID-19 is over, we as a community came together to have a vaccine and resource event fair. Our vaccine and resource event fair is open to everyone who's able to come, and the fair will begin at 10 a.m. this Saturday, 10 a.m. from 3. We're going to make sure that people have the face masks that they need. If people need flu vaccines, COVID-19 vaccines, we're going to have information if people need help paying their electric bills. And we also going to have help for property owners who might need help with getting information about property taxes. We want to make sure that we provide as much information to Chicagoans. But this shouldn't have to be on the community's responsibility. We did this because this is something that we wanted to do. This is something that should be happening in every neighborhood throughout the city of Chicago. And it's also the responsibility of the mayor's office, alderman's office, and also the Chicago Department of Public Health to provide these services to every community area. But instead, we made sure to do that. I just want to briefly highlight our demands. So we call on President Biden, Governor Pritzker, and Mayor Lightfoot and all elected officials to immediately expand public health services and public facilities, including but not limited to Chicago City Colleges, under-enrolled CPS schools, Illinois and Chicago Departments of Health and Family Service offices, libraries, staffed by neighborhood residents, community health workers, and Chicago Department of Public Health nurses, to make sure that we provide free distribution of N95 masks, home COVID tests, condoms, and other forms of protection, all adult and childhood vaccines, not limited but including COVID, flu, monkeypox, HIV, mental health, environmental services, and programs.
Here.
Thank you so much.
Woo!
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So our next speaker is Jesú Estrada. Jesú Estrada is first a CPS mom.
Yeah.
She's a C.A.W.C professor and local 1600 chair. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I hold this.
Thank you.
Adelante, Adelita.
Hi, my name is Dr. Jesú Estrada. As my friend said, I am a CPS mom of 2 kids. I go to National Teachers Academy. Simona is 7. My son is 12. And I'm also a community college teacher at Harold Washington College. I've been teaching there for almost 20 years. And I find it unconscionable and disgusting that in this country, we've had over 1 million people in a developed country in 2022, over 1 million people that have died from COVID. Unnecessary, criminal, and racist. We are seeing our black and brown community still impacted. They are under-vaccinated, under-boosted. And how is this possible when the city of Chicago got $1.2 billion in CARES funding? How is this possible when the city colleges of Chicago got millions of dollars in CARES funding? And listen, I don't know how people can sleep at night. I don't know how the president can sleep at night telling such a huge lie that COVID is over. COVID is not over. And Mayor Lori Lightfoot should be ashamed of herself for not taking vaccines to the people. Even the Department of Chicago Public Health knew that they should have done this. The county knows they should do this. When are our kids going to be safe? When are our community college students going to have the masks and the filters in the colleges they deserve? Last week, because of the CDC, which again, we got to keep that in check too, said that our college students did not have to wear masks except for instructional areas. What's the point then? How are they going to stay protected? We have almost a case a week or more, and these are just reported cases of COVID at Harold Washington College. What do they think is going to happen when the buildings go to full capacity? CPS, same thing. The teachers are wearing masks, but the kids are not. How are they going to enforce it if it's not mandatory? My kid's class quarantined 6 times during the height of the pandemic. I don't want to go through this again this coming flu season. So who's going to take care of our kids? Who's going to give them the protection they deserve? We shouldn't have to have events like this on Saturday. We shouldn't have to be the ones that provide vaccines. Mayor Lori Lightfoot, that's your damn job. We demand that they take care of our needs, that they see our students not as metrics, but as human beings that deserve to be with well-funded schools, the health care they deserve. And yes, I am angry. And we have a right to be angry and demand what we need for everybody in the city and the state and the whole damn country. Mi nombre es doctora María de Jesús Estrada. Tengo a 2 hijos de 7 y 12 años que van a una escuela pública. También soy maestra de colegio. Y yo estoy enfurecida que en esta nación, que según tiene tanto dinero, tanto lujo, más de, how do you say a million? 1 millón de personas se han muerto. ¿Por qué? ¿Por qué no le han dado las vacunas que necesitan a la gente? ¿Por qué nuestros africanoamericanos y latinos están muriéndose? En este momento no están vacunados ni los adultos ni los niños, no tienen boosters. ¿A quién le corresponde esto? ¿A quién le corresponde dar las necesidades al pueblo? Al presidente, al gobernador Pritzker, al alcalde Lori Lightfoot. Y no es porque no tienen fondos. Le dieron 1.2 billones de dólares a la ciudad para que ayudaran a los estudiantes. En los colegios de city colleges les dieron millones de dólares a cada colegio. ¿Qué pasó con ese dinero? Y a mí se me hace que eso es criminal. Donde no enseñó en Harold Washington College, la semana pasada quitaron el requisito que se pusiera la máscara. Pues, ¿qué creen que va a pasar? Los estudiantes hasta no se lo quieren poner en los salones. Yo no quiero que se enfermen. Yo no quiero que a mis hijos les pegue COVID. Yo no quiero que nadie se mueva sin necesidad. Pero le corresponde al presidente, al gobernador, al alcalde. Nosotros no somos números métricos. Tienen que ayudarnos. Tienen que proveer lo que necesitamos. Esto le corresponde a ustedes. Sí, tengo un coraje. Usted no se imagina el coraje que tengo. Porque no había necesidad para que esta gente se muriera. No hay necesidad porque gente se muera hoy en día y que se infecte. No hay necesidad. Pero ¿por qué está pasando esto? Porque quieren hacer dinero de las vacunas. Porque no quieren proveer lo que necesitamos. Y yo digo que a nosotros nos corresponde salvarnos a nosotros, porque ni el presidente, ni el gobernador, ni el alcalde nos importa ni una madre. Gracias.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next speaker is Dulce Garduño. She's a CPS mom. She's also a local school council member, and she's also a part of the Pilsen Alliance and Villita neighbors. Yay!
Hi, my name is Dulce Garduño. I am a mother, a wife, an immigrant woman. In relation to my community, I am treasurer of Pilsen Alliance. I'm so proud. And I am active member to my Villita Neighbors and People Response Network. Today, I am here with everything, but I am especially as migrant. The importance to the school of my child and everything and everyone around here, it's during the first year of the child, it is very secure that the school offers. Not only him, the child. In moment of crisis, the childhood memories bring peace to my life of the people. Not only the children have security for a warm place of a dish on the plate, on the table. They make them have a refuge for bad times in the future. Throughout my stays at CPS, I saw very good teachers who not only fulfill it, that their task of educating and become mentors to people like me, a single mother. It is for these people that I am fighting to go keep CPS schools run by parents and not for interest of other persons. Each child who arrives in Chicago school should be fit, that he is protected with roof, good, and health. CPS is one of the most democratic organizations that exists in the country.
That's right.
Parents allowed us to be inside the schools and take them as far we can't. This generation has the great job of raising their child's 3 generations, regardless of the language, like we have Bring Plus. Sometimes that keep the activity with my community is a step, and I had in CPS. And that what I saw, we need to stop being the workforce to exercise another type of more activity power in this society, even after the pandemic. And now, and follow the rules that as first world society brought us here. Stop worrying about taking care of ourselves and sharing. Be solidarity of each others. No one migrants to pleasure. No one leaves their land for pleasure. It's take courage to do. So, and I fall in love with this great country to continue strengthening with the basic privilege of health, education, and food. Ahora en español.
Preach
Okay.
that. Basic needs.
Mi nombre es Dulce Garduño, soy una mamá, soy una esposa y soy una mujer migrante. En mi relación con la comunidad, soy una tesorera de la Alianza de Pilsen, del cual estoy muy orgullosa, y soy miembro activo de mi Villita Neighbors y People Response Network. Estoy aquí con todo lo que soy, pero especialmente como una mujer migrante, y la importancia de la escuela durante los primeros años de los niños. La seguridad de tener un techo, una comida caliente, es muy importante para cada niño que llegue aquí. Cuando eres grande, los momentos que tienes crisis, lo que recuerdas es cuando eres un niño, y eso es lo que te trae la paz y la tranquilidad. A lo largo de mi estadía dentro de CPS, vi a maestros que se llenaron de generosidad conmigo, y no solo conmigo, con todos los padres educándonos. Es por esta razón que estoy aquí en esta lucha. CPS tiene que seguir manteniendo el interés en los padres y no el interés de otras personas dentro de las escuelas. Cada niño que llegue a la escuela en Chicago debe sentirse protegido, con un techo, una comida y salud. Las vacunas son muy importantes, no solo aquí, en todos nuestros países. Latinoamérica tenemos mucha curiosidad por las vacunas porque muchos de nosotros hemos sido vacunados todo el tiempo. Esta generación tiene un gran trabajo, no solo de crecer a nuestros hijos, sino de hacerlos crecer 3 generaciones en un solo paso, independientemente de traer nuestro propio idioma. Algo que me mantiene activa en mi comunidad es traer y ver lo que vi en CPS. Necesitamos dejar de ser mano de obra para ejercer otro tipo de poder activo en esta sociedad, aún después de esta pandemia, y seguir las reglas que como una sociedad de primer mundo nos trajo aquí. Dejar de preocuparnos y ocuparnos por compartir, ser solidarios el uno con el otro. Nadie migra por placer. Nadie deja su terruño por placer. Se necesita valor para hacerlo y enamorarse de este gran país para continuar fortaleciéndolo, con todos los privilegios que nos da este país: salud, educación y alimentación. Gracias.
Woo! Bien dicho.
Thank you. Our next speaker is 25th Ward Alderman Byron Sichgo Lopez. He's also the lead sponsor of our ordinance called Take the Vaccine to the People.
That's right.
Thank you. Thank you, Lonette, and thank you to the People Response Network and the Chicago Teachers Community College Union and everybody who's here today, Pilsen Alliance and all the leaders. We want to challenge a few notions and narratives that are going out there. The first one, that the pandemic is over. The pandemic may be over for corporations and billionaires and the super rich and powerful, and that's what it seems like. But the pandemic is far from over, and in fact is getting worse for working class people, for the vast majority of people in Chicago and across the country and across the world. The pandemic is very real and continues to affect the most vulnerable. We're really concerned, in fact, with the situation with children in particular, that in recent weeks we have seen an increase of children and the hospitalization rates, where that's a great concern of ours. So the pandemic is far from over, and we see how policies have continued to punish working people in the middle of a pandemic. The Federal Reserve not only made, is not a mistake, it is an intentional way to favor banks when interest rates are increasing in a time of need, and they're denying critical credit to the people who need it the most.
That's right.
They have created this crisis.
That's right.
And that's why we have a serious issue right now in our communities who have issues accessing credit. They have issues accessing vaccines. They have issues accessing the very basic needs as housing, shelter, education, you name it. The other thing that we want to challenge is some concerning remarks made by President Biden that are far from factual. President Biden is blaming the humanitarian crisis on what MacArthur did in the 50s, on socialism and communism. I think that we are decades far from that, and again, that was proven to be a conspiracy multiple times.
That's right.
And I think it's clear that the humanitarian crisis and the climate crisis are both created by the billionaires, by the super rich, and the denial of the right to choose, the right for all communities to choose the political system and economic system that we want to have democratically. So democratically, we want to challenge that notion and the narrative that is completely false. The humanitarian crisis is clearly created because of the criminal embargoes that continue to send people from poor countries down the southern border all the way to here. That's why we have so many Venezuelan and Puerto Rican and other communities who are coming in need of help, humanitarian help. Our solidarity also with all the victims of climate change and the climate catastrophe, in people in Florida, in Puerto Rico, in Cuba, and beyond. Mm-hmm. That is what's happening.
That's right.
We also want to make sure that we talk about the crisis at home. What we need is investment in our communities. What we need is relief, no more excuses. Indeed, we have a humanitarian crisis that was created by the same failed international policies that continue to govern to benefit the super rich at the expense of working people across the country and across the world. We express our solidarity for that. And also, we want to make sure that investment puts people over profit to address this crisis, the multiple crises that we have, and the moral crisis that we have, when politicians who favor by these campaign contributions are denying the right for us to choose and for us to democratically find solutions. The public health solutions are critical. That's what we're calling for our community to come here on October 1st at 10 a.m. here in the Discount Mall. We want to show what we can do to advocate for our communities when it comes to support for small homeowners, for the small businesses who are threatening to be displaced in the middle of a pandemic. What we have to also show is that last year, as in March 2021, we already were pointing out at the need to bring vaccination and other resources to our community. So again, we want to make sure that on October 1st, our community knows that we have a health fair, that we should have more support for vaccination, to talk about property tax exemptions, to talk about support for small businesses, to support an investment to our community. So here on the Discount Mall, we're going to be here at 10 a.m. on this Saturday, October 1st, to show what government should be doing, instead of giving us excuses and platitudes.
Preach it.
Brevemente en español. La pandemia está muy fuera de estar, o muy lejos de estar atrás de nosotros. La pandemia tal vez ha terminado para los billonarios, para las corporaciones, para los más ricos. Pero lo que está claro que la pandemia no ha terminado para la clase trabajadora. De hecho, se ha empeorado. Lo que nosotros vemos es una desconexión total con las acciones del gobierno. Cuando vemos una acción que no es un error de la Reserva Federal que ha aumentado las tasas de interés en un momento crítico para la comunidad, para beneficiar a los bancos y las mismas corporaciones y compañías financieras que ya se beneficiaron de una situación similar en el 2009. Es decir, que existe rescate para el rico, para los bancos, para los billonarios, pero el rescate termina nunca llegando para la clase trabajadora y quienes necesitan la ayuda en este momento. Lo otro que queríamos desafiar es esta noción de que la crisis ha sido causada, lo que dijo el presidente Biden, por el socialismo y el comunismo, así como lo dijo McCarthy en los años 50, lo cual es totalmente falso y ha sido probado que es una conspiración muy fuera de la realidad. Son excusas y conspiraciones que lo que están creando es desinformación. Lo que está claro es que la crisis humanitaria que se ha generado a lo largo del país, a lo largo del mundo, está siendo generada por los embargos criminales que siguen estrangulando a países enteros, como lo hemos visto en Venezuela, en Cuba y en otros países. Y también hemos visto con preocupación y nuestra solidaridad también con la crisis del medio ambiente, que continúa afectando a nuestras hermanas, hermanos y camaradas en Cuba, al igual que en Puerto Rico. Nuestra solidaridad también con nuestra comunidad en Florida, que sí han sido afectados con la desatención igualmente del gobierno federal. Nosotros creemos que es importante invertir en nuestras comunidades en un momento como hoy. Por eso el día sábado vamos a demostrar con acciones lo que el gobierno a todo nivel debería estar haciendo, que es invertir en nuestras comunidades, traer recursos de vacunación, como lo hemos dicho y pedido desde el marzo del 2021, pedir inversión social, recursos para nuestras escuelas, recursos para nuestros trabajos, es decir, que necesitamos inversión, no más represión. Lo que necesitamos es venir a trabajar para nuestra comunidad. Por eso aquí en el Discount Mall, el día sábado a las 11 de la mañana, vamos a traer los recursos que necesitamos urgentemente y pedir urgentemente que el gobierno invierta en nuestras comunidades en vez de darnos más excusas y más trabas. Finalmente, la crisis necesita inversión, especialmente en el programa de salud pública. Necesitamos y vamos a presionar en la próxima discusión del presupuesto de la ciudad, más inversión para el Departamento de Salud, para salud mental y para prevención de la violencia y prevención de tantas atrocidades que nos generan más y más dolor y más sufrimiento en nuestras comunidades. Gracias.
Byron for president!
Thank you. Our next speaker is Tony Johnston. Tony Johnston is the president of Chicago Cook County College Teachers Union, Local 1600.
Yeah! Woo! Tony!
Good afternoon. My name's Tony Johnston. I'm the president of Cook County College Teachers Union. We represent faculty and staff in the city colleges of Chicago, as well as the suburban community colleges in Cook County. Local 1600 is in full support of the demands of the People's Response Network that have been stated here today.
That's right.
For too long, Illinois and Chicago have hollowed out and divested from public health agencies exactly like what has been done in higher education. Mm-hmm. Chicago must expand investment in existing public health agencies. Mm-hmm. These agencies already have the content specialists and they already work in our community hospitals and clinics. And they need to continue the fight against COVID, which has been stated is not over. I'd also like to bring up the point that our union is in negotiations with the city colleges of Chicago, mm-hmm. and we have presented an ambitious but a needed proposal called City Colleges for the Common Good. This proposal seeks to include the city colleges in the current sustainable community school model
mm-hmm.
has already been started in the Chicago Public Schools. In that program, 20 schools have been chosen as sustainable community schools. They have partnered with a community-based organization to provide needed services for not only students, but community members who live in the area as well. In our proposal, our city colleges would partner with an already existing sustainable high school and at least one service provider. This investment is necessary to meet the needs of our communities devastated by disinvestment in the neighborhoods and the devastating effects of the pandemic.
That's right.
It calls for an investment of $500,000 for each city college. And among the things that this investment would enable the colleges to provide is expanded medical and mental health services for our students and for the college communities, free health insurance for all city college students, the expansion of facility use for students in the community, including drop-in childcare, restorative justice practices, support for students in temporary living situations, homelessness services and food pantries, and services and support and sanctuary for immigrants and refugees.
Here, here.
We have already seen valuable health programs and resources taken out of our neighborhoods colleges. Olive Harvey in Cottage Grove Heights, Kennedy King in Inglewood, Daly College in Ashburn, Truman College in Uptown. And these health services, these health programs were taken out of those colleges and put in one place, Malcolm X. And we've seen that access to these programs and these services has plummeted for the simple reason that our community members, our citizens of Chicago, simply cannot travel to Malcolm X, many of them, because of the distance and the difficulty. And so we are, with this program, attempting to reinvest again in our communities and our community colleges. To this date, the city colleges have rejected this proposal, and they choose not to negotiate on this matter. We want to put pressure, and we want to make sure that this is heard by our communities because it's vital and it's necessary. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Dr. Howard Erhman. Dr. Howard is the former Chicago Assistant Health Commissioner.
Yeah, bring it home. Oh, wait, we got two more speakers. Yeah, Howard.
Good afternoon. I was 5 years old when my public health career started. Laying on an emergency cart for 6 months in a public polio ward with 60 other children in one room. That was the first time I was lied to by the city of Chicago. Mayor Richard J. Daley and the administration told all of us who had no health insurance that we would be treated the same way as everyone else. A complete lie. I was 15 years old when I heard the second big lie in my life, watching President Kennedy in 1962 telling us that there really wasn't a war going on in Vietnam and no one was getting hurt. 3 years later, as a freshman at Washington University, at age 18, within 1 month, 3 of my classmates died in Vietnam. The next lie I heard about was revealed in 1972, when this country had to expose the genocidal work of the federal government to basically keep treatment from dozens and dozens of African American men in the South from getting treated for syphilis. I was honored to meet 3 of those people who came to Cook County Hospital when I was a resident there. But I'll never forget, the look in their eyes. I'll never forget the fact that even though we gave them the best treatment available, it was too late for each one of them. The next big lie we're going to talk about is what the other speakers have said. This is a lie and a cover-up like all the other things I've talked about. And that is the President of the United States 2 weeks ago telling us that COVID is over. What does that mean? It means basically, as Byron and other people have talked about here, that COVID is over while every one of the billionaires in this country and the biggest businesses from Amazon to Apple on down made the greatest profits in history since COVID began on the backs of workers from all over the world. From all over the world. We extend in this moment our love and solidarity to the people and government of Cuba, the only socialist country in the world, to the people of Florida, and in particular the Immokalee farm workers who have suffered tremendous loss of life, of property, and everything they love due to the hurricane of the last 2 days. Let's contrast what happened and how our governments are responding to this situation. Puerto Rico, whose electrical system was privatized over the last decade by the United States colonial government, still has a population where more than half the people don't have their electricity back 2 weeks after being hit. Let's talk about the people of Florida, whose government and whose federal government, through President Biden, were completely unprepared to deal with this hurricane. And President Biden now is sending some supplies after the hurricane. He didn't help people get out of Florida who didn't have cars. He didn't help people who couldn't afford to stay in hotels. Cuba, a country under a blockade for more than 60 years, had all 11 million people lose their electricity immediately after the hurricane. And guess what? 10 million people had their electricity back within 12 hours. This is a crime against the humanity, and we're suffering for it. So let's finally talk about the truth about COVID. This is a map from this morning from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control that shows that 90% of the counties, which represents 98% of the U.S. population, are either red or orange for community transmission. That means people infecting people. Okay, that's the real truth. What did the Biden administration do this year in January? It created a lie. I'm sorry. This is the map, I hope you can get a good picture of this, of all the counties surrounding Chicago, where 11 million people live. Every one of them is red or orange, including Chicago and Cook County, which is red, the highest amount of transmission possible. So that's the reality of what's going on. The Biden administration created a system called COVID community levels, which is an invention, a non-factual lie of, instead of measuring people getting infected, it measures people who get admitted to the hospital and the percentage of hospital beds. Well, who can get admitted to a hospital? Who doesn't have insurance? Who isn't undocumented? We all know the answer to that question. People of color are far more likely to get admitted to the hospital. People of color are far more likely to not have insurance, and certainly the undocumented. What's this all result in? This is today's figures. In the last month, 15,000 people have died. I don't think that's normal.
Nope.
I don't think that COVID's over.
Nope.
2 million people got infected. And guess what? Out of those 2 million people, 400,000 will have long COVID for up to 2 years or more, including 1 out of 5 of the 5,400 school children under the Chicago Public Schools.
Criminal.
Under Lightfoot, and the staff who got infected. African Americans, Latinos, and Native Americans are still 2 to 3 times more likely to both get infected and to die than whites. So why are we doing this event, which we invite and is open to everyone anywhere? You don't even have to live in Chicago to come to this event on May 1st, starting at 10 o'clock right here. Right. I'm sorry, October 1st. Right here is going to be the Chicago Department of Health van that's going to be giving vaccines to all children. There'll be other vaccines being given by Rush, and there'll be services which we call community survival programs, so that people can reduce their property taxes to be able to stay in Pilsen, Little Village, and every other community in Chicago. We're going to have people here to help people get LIHEAP, so that people's electric bills, their gas bills, their water bills can be reduced, so they can stay living inside the city of Chicago. So that's why we're doing this. But as Alderman Byron Sichgo Lopez said, and other people, this is the government's job.
That's right.
This is the government's job. Instead of doing her job, Lori Lightfoot yesterday had her hand-picked school board approve another steal of Chicago Housing Authority land that is supposed to be for the 25,000 families living outside Chicago for 25 years waiting to get a new apartment. Each one of those families has a letter in their hand 25 years later that says, we're going to get a new apartment from CHA within a year, 25 years later. So this is what the government is doing instead of what it should be doing. That's why we're here. Thank you very much. Brevemente en español.
Woo!
Mi nombre es Dr. Howard Erhman. Antes fue el comisionado asistente del Departamento de Salud aquí en Chicago. Y estamos aquí porque el gobierno del federal, el gobierno del estado de Illinois, por el gobierno Pritzker, el gobierno de esta ciudad, por la alcaldesa Lightfoot, no está haciendo su trabajo. Este sábado que viene, el 1 de octubre, nosotros vamos a hacer su trabajo por ellos. Pero estamos haciendo de corazón de nosotros para nuestras comunidades. Todos están bienvenidos, no importa si vive aquí en Chicago, no importa si vive en la Villita o la 18, por eso estamos aquí. Primero que nada queremos dar amor y solidaridad y abrazos al pueblo de Cuba, al gobierno de Cuba, el único país socialista que existe todavía en el mundo, bajo un bloqueo de más de 60 años, al pueblo de Florida y especialmente a los campesinos de Immokalee que vienen en todas partes del mundo para trabajar, porque ya está sufriendo inundaciones, está sufriendo falta de electricidad. Por eso estamos aquí, todos están bienvenidos este 1 de octubre. Muchas gracias.
Our last speaker is Neal Resnikoff. Neal Resnikoff is a part of the anti-war coalition.
All right, Neal, bring it home, brother.
Oh, am I supposed to speak?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
you got the mic.
Gotta get close.
As others have said, the government is criminally negligent and not preparing for the pandemic that was known to be on the way, and for not taking care of what was needed. Vaccinations, masking mandates, and other taking care of other risk factors. And it's continuing on that path of criminal negligence. So we very much oppose that. We're for a vaccine ordinance in Chicago, for a masking mandate in the schools and throughout the city, and to have vaccinations readily available to everyone. Thank you.
Woo! Right, Neal.
Hi, thank you so much. Do you have any questions for any of our speakers today? No?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Byron, I don't know if you have a few minutes.